There are a lot of good organizations doing really great work all over Birmingham. I think all the members of the Prosper team understand they can get that. What people don't want to do is replicate a whole bunch of different organizations. And so there's not an interest in trying to come in and have Prosper duplicate the work of all these other organizations.
We don't want to.
We're not trying to become the new Community Foundation or United Way or anything. That's not what we're about here. We're a table that people can come, and we want to have this table where everyone's invited, and we can try to set goals for the community, try to come up with these metrics about how we're going to measure our success against those goals, and how we can come together and raise funding to carry out these programs. That's where we thought Prosper should focus. We do not want Prosper out trying to replicate the roles that other really good organizations are carrying out right now.
Hi, I'm Angela Abdul-Rashid, the host of the Prosper Connector podcast. We're the place where information is shared, connections are made, and great Birmingham stories are told by great Birmingham people. Today joining us, we have Mark Crosswhite, President of the Board of Directors of Prosper, retired Alabama Power executive, and just an overall good citizen. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank
today,
you,
Mark.
Angela. Thank you very much.
So before we get started into the podcastness of it all, I want to talk about food. And I want you to think about Birmingham as a food. If you could compare Birmingham to any food, what would it be and why?
Well, that's a question I've never thought of before. Since I like Mexican food, I guess I'll say Mexican. It tastes good.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little spicy.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of places to eat. I think, gosh, that one threw me for a curve, Angela. But I'll stick with my Mexican. I think it's just it's liked by almost everyone.
Yeah. And that's us as a city. I think
so.
Your point about it being liked by everyone, there's something in Birmingham for everybody. And
I
that's
agree.
one of our hidden secrets that I think should be known more widely and broadly. But truly, it's a place for everybody here.
There's something for everyone.
Yes.
If you take a little time and look, you'll find it.
So tell us what got you here to Birmingham.
Sure thing. I came here in 1987 when I graduated law school. I went to law school in Tuscaloosa. After graduation, I came here and worked at a law firm in town and worked at that law firm from 87 until 2004. Then I went in-house with Southern Company, the parent of Alabama Power, and worked there until my retirement at the end of 2022.
Wow. And one thing you did prior to that retirement, and we're so grateful for that, is a group of you thought we needed a Prosper in Birmingham. Tell us about that journey, what led to the creation of Prosper, the initial mission and vision of Prosper. Just give us the background.
Sure. A little history. So I guess it was in 2018, maybe early 19, Brookings Institute came and did a review of Birmingham. And they were looking to see how does Birmingham, from an economic standpoint and health of the city standpoint, stack up with other cities of comparable size. And they did this big analysis, and what they found was that Birmingham has seen some growth and some economic development over the past 20 years, but we were not and are not yet keeping up with some of our peer cities across the country. And we came together to talk about why is that and what do we need to do about it. And that was really the issue, the problem that Prosper was formed to work on.
Mm-hmm. And so you come together, and I know the pillars, the visions, the mission like the back of my hand, and I need to because that's the work I get to do every day. But for you, what was the driving force to be a part of this?
Sure. Well, let me go back to the problem. The problem was Birmingham's lagging behind. What they identified in Prosper about the Brookings Institution, was that there were some areas of the city, in particular, households led by black people, households led by females, were not keeping up with the white counterparts, male counterparts. And so that was the cause that Brookings pointed to that says this is the underlying problem that y'all have got to deal with. So as we started talking about it, we said, well, what can we do? And there are an awful lot of really good causes in Birmingham, and I know a lot of foundations, corporations, philanthropic people. They support all of those, and as a result, I think the charitable giving, the philanthropic giving, gets spread kind of thin. So we came together to say, let's try to focus our efforts on solving this problem. Going back in my career, I've been around some of the charitable giving activities in the city since the early 2000s. And, there are an awful lot of good things being done. I mean, and there's a lot of Band-Aids that people need. Even though millions, hundreds of millions of dollars had been contributed to different causes in Birmingham, we didn't feel like we were doing much more than putting Band-Aids on the problem. We weren't seeing a transformational change that would help us resolve the issues that Brookings had identified. So that was why we came together as Prosper to talk about, and we didn't know how to do it. I mean, it's not like we came with a battle plan. This is how you solve the problem. But that was the problem and the cause, and we were trying to, how do we get out of this and how do we really start making a real difference in the city of Birmingham?
And so I appreciate you acknowledging there are some amazing nonprofits, service organizations in the city. I come from that world for most of my career. I know the good work that's being done, but the thought of the group and the collective is what I'll call them that sat to say we needed a Prosper spoke to, we know the work that's being done and we want to continue to support that, but there needs to be strategy and systems in place on a higher level, not doing the programmatic aspects, and we'll get into that, but to really put some strategy and some goals around moving the needle.
Strategy, goals, and performance indicators.
Yes.
How do we know if we're winning or not?
How do we know? And how do we know if we're winning? How are we transparent about victories? And how are we also transparent about
Didn't quite measure up.
we did not measure up.
Yep.
We missed the mark. Okay, so that's the foundation. That's how we got started. And so there's a group of civic leaders, political leaders, community leaders. It truly was indicative of leaders across several aspects of community that were at the table.
I think as it initially started, it was principally the major businesses in town, Blue Cross, Regions, and the list goes on, Alabama Power, Alltech, UAB was involved. That was the core group that came together to hear about the Brookings study and what it had found. We all understood pretty quickly that we've got to have community buy-in, we've got to have civic buy-in, and so the mayor was right there at the very beginning. I should have said the city of Birmingham. They were really involved at the beginning, but then we started looking for community leaders to come on board and philanthropic leaders and foundation leaders to come on. So we had our idea of what we might need to do to solve some of the ills that we were suffering through, but we didn't. I don't think we knew we didn't know what the community might think, and we wanted to get that input that we knew from the beginning that was going to be really important for Prosper to be successful.
And I think for me as an employee of Prosper, that was one of the things that was most attractive to me. First of all, I saw the board of directors and I thought there is no way they are involved. Knowing as busy as some of your schedules are, I just assumed incorrectly that you all would not be as invested as I had heard you were. And that myth was proven to be a myth very quickly. But I think one of the things that Prosper has done very intentionally is to make sure that it is representative of the community and from our board of directors, staff, et cetera. Thinking about our vision and our mission, building the most inclusive and thriving economy in the Southeast around strategies and goals with job creation, job preparation, and job access. Where have we so far gotten it right or are on the path in this long marathon work that we're doing? And where is your vision for us digging in and accomplishing a little bit more?
So I think job creation, and we actually had a lengthy meeting on this just yesterday to talk about where we were. I think that strategy is still cooking. Okay, I mean, it needs a lot more work put into it yet, but I think we've got a general direction on where we want to go. And one of the things I'll say that's exciting, on that very topic, in the past when we talked about economic development, and this is from my prior life, we tended to think about how can we attract big businesses in.
Right.
And at one time, the view was let's shoot. If you've got a target, shoot at it. And as a result, we were chasing a bunch of things that we probably really didn't have a very good chance at. People would say, well, we have an airport. Let's go get Boeing to move to Birmingham. And that's probably not going to happen. I think part of this strategy has evolved over time is let's be realistic on what type of businesses we can attract. But even then, I don't think that really gets to the core mission that we're trying to solve at Prosper. We could attract a bunch of big business to Birmingham, but is that helping uplift Black and female households? And the answer may be no. So we have to look at how we go through that. I think one of the areas that is a real fundamental shift from the way we've traditionally looked at job creation is the importance of small business, the importance of entrepreneurship, and how we can incubate and grow these new types of businesses in Birmingham. And, that's one of the things I'm probably the most excited about, and I think one of the areas that we're really going to have to focus on job creation. Job access, I think, some of the things we've been wrestling with there are issues that are going to be really tough to solve. Transportation is a really good one to mention. Birmingham, a lot of citizens in Birmingham struggle with the lack of public transportation options. There's some good work being done on how are we going to solve that problem, but that is likely to be a very expensive, very hard problem to solve. The digital divide that we talked about,
Yes.
there's a real haves and have-nots when it comes to high-speed internet and so forth. How can we get that high-speed internet and that technology all across Birmingham? That's something that's sorely needed. When you talk about telemedicine, remote work, remote school. I mean, the list goes on and on. If you don't have high-speed access, you're really at a disadvantage in enjoying that part of the world now. So that's one of the problems I think we're looking at. We would like to find a way to help solve it, but another one's going to be a fairly daunting task. And I guess job preparation. So I'll kind of hit all the targets.
Thank you for that.
Job preparation, I think, may be the one that we've been the most successful in, and I think that's in part because of Promise, the Birmingham Promise. I would consider that part of job preparation. The mayor and his team came up with that idea. It was not born at Prosper, but it seemed to be a natural alliance between the two organizations, and so we have been helping raise funds for the Birmingham Promise, and so I can, with the mayor's indulgence, I'd claim that as part of our victory.
We'll take some
take some of it. I know Regions Bank, where I'm on the board of directors there, and they're doing a lot of really good work, and Kendra Key is doing some really good work on trying to figure out how we can help Black businesses in Birmingham get started and grow and prosper. So I think of the different segments, I think that's the area that we've seen the most success on in preparation. The other two, we'll make strides on it, but we've got a ways to go yet.
You're so true. And daily I remind myself that June 2024, Prosper is only 3 years old, which is still very much in its infancy stage. But one of the things that I appreciate from the foundation of Prosper was the intentionality of collaboration. Why was it so important for you all to set up an organization that didn't run and steward programs, but relied on community resources that were existing and just were there to support and uplift, provide that strategy that we mentioned, so that we could lift our heads up above the fray, so to speak, to pull in national dollars, to think more strategically, to reinforce the work that's being done?
Well, there are a lot of good organizations doing really great work all over Birmingham, and I think all the members of the Prosper team understand they can get that. What people don't want to do is replicate a whole bunch of different organizations, and so there's not an interest in trying to come in and have Prosper duplicate the work of all those other
We
organizations.
don't want to.
We don't want to. We can't. We don't have. We don't have the staff. We don't
It's
have the
six.
resources.
Yes.
I mean, we can't do that. And I think that was an important thing for us to make clear up front. Was we're not trying to become the new community foundation or United Way or anything. That's not what we're about here. We thought from the beginning, if we can, and J.W. Carpenter says it very well. Talk about we're a table that people can come, and we want to have this table where everyone's invited, and we can try to set goals for the community, try to come up with these metrics about how we're going to measure our success against those goals, and how we can come together and raise funding to carry out these programs. That's where we thought Prosper should focus. We do not want Prosper out trying to replicate the roles that other really good organizations are carrying out right now.
On behalf of staff, I would say I agree. Thank you for that. One of the things, though, that excites me about something innovative that we are doing is the pool for national funding. You mentioned Birmingham being a very generous community as it relates to philanthropy, but we know that any pot that continues to be pulled from at some point needs to be poured back into. And so one of the things that has happened in 2023, 2024 is an intentional opportunity to put Birmingham on a national stage, share some of the work that Prosper and Partners are doing, and pull down national funders. I think of people like the Walton Family Foundation and Prosper being a part of hosting the first regional Catalyze Challenge. As you think about the initial vision, how do you think more of that can support the work that we're doing?
Well, from the very beginning, when we were working with Brookings, we made the point Birmingham is very philanthropic, very charitable, but there are a limited number of organizations and people, and you can only take it so far. And so from the very start, we asked Brookings, we think Birmingham's got a story to tell. Mm-hmm. How can we get other people to come see our story and help invest and create the story in Birmingham? And initially they gave us some ideas, and I think they helped open a few doors. Since then, the Prosper staff has been doing a great job in helping bring in money from across the country to help fulfill Prosper's mission. And, I think that's something it's important, but it's also completely justified. If we look at every foundation, big national foundations, they invest in a lot of different places. Birmingham had just not made it on the radar screen, and I don't understand really why. It may be something we just never focused on before. But I think now the team has done a really good job of gaining access to these national level foundations and helping get them interested in Birmingham. And I think that's demonstrated by the number of visits that they either have made or are in the soon future will be making.
So let's talk about the future. Speaking of future, what would you like to see next as we're thinking about Prosper being 3 years old now? Give us next year, the next 5 years, next 10 years.
Well, over the next year, I would say I would like to see all of our working strategies fully developed and fully endorsed by the community. So that would be the short term is always the easiest, and I think we're on a path to get that done. A little further out, I'd like to see us making real substantial progress on each of our key measures. I think the fundamental measure that I recall is that we want to see an increase of 20% in incomes of Black and female households. Can we get there in 5 years? I don't know. I hope so. I mean, that would be, actually achieving the goal would be great. And then, if that just kind of gets us up on par with our peer cities, then, obviously the next step would be how can we surpass them?
How can we beat them?
How can we beat them?
Yes.
And how can we be the one, they all say we want to be like Birmingham. And that's the ultimate goal is we tap into what this city has to offer and really bring it to the forefront and make it the envy of the whole country.
We're on the way. So I want to end with this. I don't know if you know this. We took site visits to several cities, peer cities, the last couple years. We actually have some planned for this year. But one of the cities, I won't name names, that we went to is one that we truly talk about often. as someone that we want to aspire as a city. And the question that they asked of us is, how does Birmingham get civic leaders, political leaders, corporate leaders to be collaborative and vocal and involved about economic development, but inclusive economic development? Because in that particular city that's just north of Alabama, in Tennessee, they said that that was something that they did not have. And so I want to end with this question. Why is it important? Economic development is economic development. We need that. But why was it so important to make sure that we hearkened to what Brookings said about how economic development impacted Black people and women-led households, and incorporate that so deeply into Prosper's work and into Prosper's mission? Because that is something that we're doing that we're hearing other cities are not doing, and we should be proud of that.
Well, the call for doing it, I think, so you have a lot of engineers, doctors, bankers. You've got a bunch of really smart people who are in the leadership of the business community in Birmingham. One thing they all tend to look at, though, are statistics and
The
numbers.
data.
And they look at the data. And so I think, at least in part, the Brookings data was demonstrative. I mean, it told the story. And so I think that served to get everybody focused on this is the Black and female households are where we really need to focus. How do we get everybody energized? I would also say that same group of people in Birmingham, and I've only lived in my hometown of Decatur, Birmingham, and Pensacola for a very short time. Birmingham has just an enormous amount of civic commitment from the leadership of the community and the business community. I have been pleasantly surprised over my tenure in Birmingham of seeing how people are willing to step up to the plate and do a lot of hard work for the betterment of the city. I think it's fantastic. People have asked, why is that? I think it's a real desire to make Birmingham a better place and a better place for everyone to live. And I think that's what's motivating the community to come together behind Prosper.
Well, we are grateful for that. Thank you, Mark, so much for your vision for Prosper, for your work even now in retirement, and investing in the work that we're doing and helping us achieve this goal that we may not get tomorrow, but we will get there one day. We'll be able to sit back and think about, oh my gosh, we did that, but we did it together.
Absolutely.
So we appreciate your leadership, and thank you for all that you're doing with the community and for Prosper.
All right. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.